So, Premier Jason Kenney is not very popular right now.
Okay.
We're talking Alberta politics.
Yeah.
Not popular at all. His
Okay.
own party seems to hate him.
Okay.
In fact, he had two sort of partial defections from his party in the form of like kind of a anti-lockdown rebellion.
Yeah.
Two of his MLAs. Do you think Kenny's going down?
Yeah, he's done. Like, I'm gonna. Yeah, the next premier of Alberta is Rachel Notley.
Right now, that seems like a very strong possibility.
I'd make a wager. Now, I've lost wagers on Notley before. Because I actually thought she was going to beat Jason Kenney because I thought he was so fucking unlikable.
No, but that's the thing. People don't really like Jason Kenney. He's like the classic sleazy politician. He's like everything about him is unappealing, really. He was basically the get rid of Notley vote. And getting rid of Notley was absolutely pivotal. And she should have never had a chance to come back ever. But Kenney is doing so poorly now that he's creating not only the chance that she comes back, but almost the inevitability she comes back.
So what should he have done?
In my opinion?
Yeah. Starting, let's say October. I think he was, like you saw people getting outside, getting some sunshine, getting some vitamin D. I mean, fuck telling people to get sleep, eat right, and take vitamins and say your prayers, Hulkamania style. They'd be like, oh, just wear this mask, you'll be fine. October comes around. What does Kenney do?
I would have done what the Florida governor did a few months back.
Pretty based.
And basically he got Gupta from Oxford and Kuldorf from Harvard and Bhattacharya from Stanford. And they did like a round table or like a kind of a press conference sort of thing. It was a few, like maybe, 2 hours long, if I remember correctly. And surprisingly, it really seemed like the governor himself was pretty on top of the issue. But anyway, then the next day, they basically opened up the whole state.
Okay. Open for business. Let's go. Come on back to Florida.
And I think Kenney should have done something along those lines. Whether politically you can fire Hinshaw or not, I'm speaking just purely in terms of politics. I think you could sell it because enough people can't stand Hinshaw.
Yeah. I have a question. I have a question for you. You think she does Xanax?
Oh, she's on lithium or something.
Yeah, she's on something.
No, she's like a sick, she's what I'd imagine a movie character of like a serial killer, like psycho nanny that kills your kids. Or the psycho doctor that kills your kids.
Just flat expressionless. I don't know if she's got fucking no SSRI issues. She just has something going on. It's kind of pleasing on the radio to hear her speak. I will have to say it's, this week 200 people have been added to the hospital. There are 6 people in the ICU. She's like a GLaDOS kind of voice, and but I
think she's obnoxious. I think she's droning. I think she comes across with no empathy whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's so fake and contrived. I think she's a genuine sociopath, and I think it's only natural that a person like that would wind up in a position like that within the public health bureaucracy.
Yeah.
I think these are probably some of the sickest people in government. But
Damn.
I think whether you fire her or not, or just kind of diminish her influence.
How much influence do you think she actually has on policy?
99%.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I think everyone's terrified to do anything she doesn't say.
That's not how it came across to me. That's not the vibe I picked up. But there's no transparency.
That's true.
Well, so they finally put some metrics around some of their decisions, which I think is I don't know, maybe a year past due. Like the part where you're like, oh, those numbers are too high. And it's like, well, what's too high? Give me the exact number. And they finally did that. They might be, I don't know if other provinces have done that, but like that's at least measurable, definable, has a goal, has an end, has a metric that people are aware of other than your fucking opinion.
But even then, they've created an escape hatch. So just background, I guess, for listening. All of this has been, all these lockdown measures, province by province, have pretty much been entirely arbitrary. And there's not been any clear standard made public as to why people do what they do. It seems all very reactionary. Now, Alberta, and this is basically entirely due to the rural Alberta restaurant and salon rebellion that pushed the premier to mildly reduce some of the restrictions. Now they're, because one of the complaints has been total lack of transparency. So now they've got this new system they're going to follow.
Yeah, they might as well just grade them, call them colors like they've been doing. Oh, we're in an orange area.
Yeah, so they've got this new system where it's according to predetermined hospitalization numbers, they'll open up different sectors. But it's totally putting the shucks on the rubes. Because not only does the actual documentation on the website show that they may change restrictions when they hit a certain level, it's no guaranteed commitment or anything to do so. The government has said on TV repeatedly, as if to diminish this great plan they've come up, that other factors may result in more aggressive lockdowns. So they've created a lot of escape hatches where whatever they've put on paper, they've basically admitted they're not going to follow it at all if they don't want to.
The government of Canada cannot help but build in a notwithstanding clause to absolutely everything.
Well, yeah, like this is even just the Public Health Act gives the chief medical officer in Alberta a tremendous amount of power. In fact, she's probably the most powerful person in the province at the moment. But, well,
so what about Chandros? What do you think of that fucking guy?
He's a buffoon. He hasn't demonstrated that he's anything more than a midwit, as they say.
I've never seen anyone suffer from backpfeifengeist like that guy.
No, he's pretty bad. No one seems to like him.
Yeah.
There's just no...
Shearer and Kenney are cousins, and Chandros is the kid that lives down the block that hangs out with them. And they just all look like a crew of fucking...
little jerk teenagers.
Yeah, like they're just kids you want to stuff
like some
in.
crew that no one likes in the neighborhood.
Yeah, they're yeah, I'm not a fan. There's just something about him. There's no other way to put it.
So anyway, kind of to bring it back to this what we were saying, I mean, there's the political angle. There's also this sort of how that interplays with the whole lockdown situation. They've basically still got it set up that they don't have any standard by which they would just lift everything. And there's no commitment that they would ever do that, because there's this continuing tendency to keep moving the goalposts on what the tasks are. And nothing drives that point home more than the old slogan, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It can just go on forever and ever.
I remember bringing that up.
It's entirely arbitrary.
I remember bringing that up in the fall to somebody, and they're like, no one ever said that. No one ever said 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Well,
it's bend the curve.
No, it's flatten the
You
curve.
misheard. I said it's bend the curve. Wagey. Now get back in your cage.
Well,
do what we tell you.
Whatever. But they've changed the goalposts over and over First was the 2 weeks to flatten the curve so the hospitals don't blow up. Then we wait till the vaccine happens. Then in some places it's like no one can ever die again. COVID 0 is a serious thing. You can just go type it in to a search and boom, COVID 0 is a genuine proposition that a lot of people put forward seriously. It's insane. But all this arbitrariness, they're just making everything up as they go along. Politically, I think you're going to lose support on one side or another, but I think Kenney should pander to, quote, his side.
But he's got friends. He's got friends that died of this, Clayton, you insensitive prick. He's got real life friends that he hasn't made up. Got very, very sick. It's a serious disease, people. Now, I don't want to do this. No one likes having their freedom stripped from them, but I've got to do it.
Well, that's what he said the other day.
Yeah.
He got up on that press conference and somebody was asking about all this criticism and such he's been getting. And he says, there'd be mountains of corpses in McMahon's stadium if it wasn't for me. And, I know these ideas are unpopular, but so many more people would have died. And he brought up the South Dakota example. He says, look at South Dakota. They don't have any lockdowns and more people have died there than in Alberta. And he thinks this is a big knockdown argument, but I mean, he's just wrong. You don't compare Alberta to South Dakota. What you do is you should compare South Dakota to North Dakota. And you don't get a lot of laboratory type situations in the social sciences. Sometimes you get lucky and you've got like an East-West Germany kind of thing. Pretty valid to make comparisons there. North Dakota, South Dakota, that's not too bad. So you can make a pretty interesting comparison there. And in fact, it shows why the South Dakota example proves that Kenney is wrong. Because North Dakota, its neighbor, had restrictions. It had the whole shebang. Business closures, restrictions, mask mandates, yada, yada. South Dakota did not. The curves are the same. If you looked at them on the same graph and they were unlabeled, you would never be able to guess which one was which. And that's the same case everywhere. The curve is always the same. So what happens is the lockdown gives you nothing. People are going to die either way. The government is not powerful enough to stop the virus. It's going to do its thing. So the lockdowns don't get you anything other than massive collateral damage. So that being said, no politician can easily admit this, but you have to admit that you can't deal with it, and you can't make it go away. You just got to deal with it. And I think you can sell it because Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, where she got up on TV like every day basically and said, we trust our people, we respect freedom, we're not going to close down our economy. She's very popular.
Yeah.
Widely criticized as a total failure.
So is Robert Ford.
North Dakota is no better. It's basically the same. Their deaths per 100,000 are within like single digits.
Yeah.
Their hospitalizations and their case curves are basically the same. So she's not a failure. She did the right thing. And as far as I can understand, she's actually popular because of it.
I again the Ford example in Quebec. There was a guy given a $1,500 fine for violating curfew because he decided he wanted to go outside for a walk by himself at night. $1,500.
Insane. Yeah. Absolutely insane. I hope in 50 years when we tell kids these stories, they think we're making shit up because it's so insane.
But the premier, clearly his head's not on a fucking pike.
No.
And the Quebec, you think Albertans like to bitch about freedom. Quebecers seem to take that shit a little more seriously.
Do they though? They love this stuff.
You have an entire northern half of that fucking province that will not tolerate that shit. Like, they don't fucking play.
Well, it's a different story here in rural Alberta too. Very different than the urban environments, and I think that's pretty normal for the most part across the country. Urban populations are just more neurotic, and there is a partisan aspect to it. So the more lockdown oriented groups tend to be more left leaning, and that tends to be more concentrated in cities and so on and so forth. But yeah, things aren't good for Kenney, but there is a lot of like stuff turning against some of the lockdown stuff, but that's not his only problem.
I don't think he's bending the rural Alberta. I really don't.
Oh yeah, he is. Because he won't kick these people out of the caucus because of rural Alberta. But the lockdown thing isn't his only problem, of course.
Go on.
He's got two other big issues that are plaguing him.
That face.
Keystone got busted. So
He's
the big
done.
pipeline, Keystone XL, that he put $1.5 billion equity investment into, taxpayer money, and all these loan guarantees. I don't know where that's at because they might not need all that.
The actual equity
right?
was a couple $1,000,000, and the rest were loan
It was
guarantees.
1.5 billion. The total was like 6 billion or so.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was loan guarantees. So if there's no
pipeline, no
credit
money.
line to guarantee, or if it's not tapped out or whatever, maybe it's not the full commitment. But so that's pretty bad. And Kenney just looks stupid. But one thing, well, you're in the oil industry.
What's his recourse?
Well, there's nothing he can do.
Not a fucking
But
thing.
these companies, so
He
what a
made
lot
a-
of people don't understand is like, oh, why the U.S. is energy independent? Why would it want Canadian oil anyway?
Because it's
And
cheap.
it doesn't work that way. It's oil chemistry. There are Gulf Coast refineries that are basically rigged up to process this exact kind of stuff that they otherwise get from Venezuela and Mexico. But they don't get as much of that as they used to. They want the Canadian stuff. They need to pump it down there to those refineries. Then we get it to other markets and we get a better price. So it's good. But the Americans want it as well. And now you have to think about, there's a lot of projects dedicated to getting more oil down there. Now you're in the oil industry. Are you familiar with the cap line?
No.
Okay, so there's just all these things going on that people don't really know about. So cap line's a big one.
It's not been a big commodity. Granted, the company I was at was mostly gas.
I know, but just
I think maybe 0.1% of our production was oil. The rest was just condensates and liquids.
But I'm just I only say that to be like, you're kind of in the scene at all.
Yeah.
Of obviously you know what Keystone XL is.
Yeah.
But of course you've never heard of the cap line.
Never heard of cap.
I've met one other person who knows what this is.
Yeah.
So the cap line used to pump from Louisiana up into the American Midwest. So it was a northbound pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
It was the biggest one in America. That market is pretty much saturated because there's so much oil production. They don't need to get it into the Midwest. They need to get it out to ports. So the cap line reversal is a big project that's underway right now. It's going to be like 1 million barrels a day. And the heavy crude service is going to be on in 2022. And that's going to be like 500,000 barrels of Canadian oil going down to Louisiana ports to get these refineries and other markets. And there's other stuff going on too, like projects in Montana and stuff. Like this stuff is going to get down there one way or another. But the cap line thing, which people don't know about, that's going to be online. That's going to increase capacity. That takes a lot of the bite out of Keystone XL. Like life doesn't depend on that. Now, of course, that doesn't mean like, obviously Northern Gateway should still happen and all those
done.
big epic projects. In terms of just the oil of it, like the oil market aspect, all that should still happen, but it's not. It's kiboshed. But they still need to get the oil to better markets. Like that's still happening. The market's still working to make that happen.
Anybody who is not the reason why there's an issue, like a price comparison between WTI and Brent, is not just a it's in American dollars versus Canadian dollars, and it costs X dollars per kilometer to get oil from A to B, and there's X groups that have a certain percentage of pipeline reserved capacity and surge capacity, etc. It's just so fucking cheap, and the harder you can just ride the shit out of Canada's resources, like the better for you. Like we're being taken advantage of very hard, and there's no other game. There's nowhere to take it, nothing to do with it. So we have to put it down there. We can't refine it ourselves. We can't take it to market. We can't put it on a boat. It took the largest company in the world.
No, we've embargoed ourselves.
It took the largest company in the world, plus 2 other huge multinationals, plus 5 state-owned oil companies to make one LNG facility happen. One.
Yeah, it's insane. And Canada's so far behind on all that. But, I mean, the Coastal GasLink is a huge deal. And they need to fill that thing with a hell of a lot of gas over the next several years. And that's a lot of production that's got to happen.
So a lot of people are pretty anxious about Russia's moves when it comes to gas. Because they built, I think, 10 just giant fucking liners in the past year, and their LNG capacity, I mean, like, they're gonna get all this shit to China. It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, that's who we're competing with.
Yeah, we were competing with Russia for China. And that's the only chance we got to actually, because there's once you make it liquid, there's not a lot more you can do with it. You can't turn it into some other thing, easily and then sell that. So that's about as much upgrading as you can get done in this country. And that's what you ship. So it's amazing that, it's just logistics that doesn't make them just ship out the gas raw. Like it's almost like pulling teeth to get companies to add value to products in this country.
Oh, it's like that in the whole country. Like the only time there's ever any big announcement of something happening, you dig below the headline, and the company's always getting some huge subsidy. And not just like a tax break for X number of years. Like they're just getting money from
Cash.
The federal government and the provincial government, often in some mixture. But I mean, even here in Alberta, they've a lot of announcements recently have been related to some kind of welfare project or some grant, like corporate welfare deal.
Yeah.
They never call it that. Obviously, it's always some, clean tech grant
initiative,
or like Alberta Innovates grant or that kind of stuff.
What else are you gonna? I've heard a lot of ideas. What does Alberta do? Let's just say look, you lost. Okay. The engine of Canadian finances and equalization is now purely in the hands of Toronto and the financial processing sector. So just Canada is nothing but real estate, raw materials that don't include oil and gas, and financial instruments, basically moving stuff around on a spreadsheet. What does Alberta do?
Well, nothing. So yeah, big petroleum producer, which should be awesome. Big agriculture.
Okay, so agritech
it's a bit
is
of
the
a
next,
logistical
yeah.
hub in some regards. There, I don't know, like I could pull up the chart, but
I meant
there's
it as
construction, forestry. There's some different stuff. A lot of it is natural resource based.
what should be the policies within the province to move forward in the next 5 years in terms of sector development.
There should be no policies about sector development.
They can't do that. They literally will fucking eat their own face before they have some kind of initiative. I'm telling you, dude.
No, all they should do, obviously, is cut all the taxes.
Cut the taxes.
And just let it pour in.
Okay.
And then we can figure it out. Thank you very much.
All right.
I don't want some bureaucrat or politician deciding how our economy should be diversified and what sectors we should focus on. I think that's like the least high on our priorities. But yeah, if your biggest industry is dead, just say it's politically been murdered, totally dead. You're talking almost 20% of the Alberta economy. Yeah. It's not as high as people think. It's not like 90% or anything. It's under 20%. I believe it's 17 or something. So you place that, well, that is huge. That is beyond the scope of anything you're going to fix unless capital just pours in to fill the void. And to get that much capital to pour in, you have to be willing to become the most capital-friendly, business-friendly, investment-friendly jurisdiction on the planet.
They only understand business-friendly as a Keynesian. So they're at the ice cream bar, and they've got all these flavors in front of them. And they're like, I'll just turn the tap that makes this sector happen.
What they want to do is, like, Kenny's had all these tech-related announcements. Oh, we're getting tech investments. And, you know, if you think very somewhat in broad strokes and think, maybe that's not what you want. People talk about, like, big tech and deep tech and its biases and the type of people who work for tech companies. Do you really want those people filling up Calgary? Personally, I don't.
They already do, dude. Are you fucking kidding me? Take a look at our youth.
We don't need more. Fuck. So, no, but the thing is, that's what they're all about. They're like, oh, we'll become a tech hub, blah, blah, blah. No, just cut the taxes and let's see what happens.
Let it rock.
The money will come. Just cut the taxes. I'm talking corporate income tax, cut it to 1%. Personal income tax, cut it to 1%. And if you're poor, you pay 0%. There's your progressive income tax. So throw a bone to the leftists.
What's your definition of poor in that scenario? Under
$75,000 a year.
That's a good living. That's not a bad living. That's comfy.
But the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer.
I wonder why.
So you gotta have progressive income tax.
Oh, that's right. Maybe
no, but remember,
maybe we should let
I said there's two problems Kenny's got right now. So we talked about Keystone. It's fucked.
I thought I already pointed out
economic. That ties into the general economic problem, but there's a third problem.
He's got that face.
No.
It's
this whole federalism versus like independence thing, and it's tearing him apart.
Okay, so
he
what do you think his his stance on either side is?
Okay, well, let me ask you this, which is maybe a sneaky way to kind of answer the question.
Okay.
Do you think he wants to be prime minister?
Yes.
Okay. So do you think him wanting to be prime minister affects what his position is on that issue? Do you think you can be prime minister if you're trying to, like, pull one of the provinces out?
I think if you're
or rewrite the country's rules to give one province that isn't necessarily popular like Canadians don't hate each other, but in terms of relative animosity, Alberta has like among the highest negative score.
Second only to Quebec.
I believe that's correct. A lot of people have a beef with Quebec.
Yeah, they should.
Well,
if I was Quebecois,
I went to
I'd tell you
Montreal for the first time a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Their food is really good.
Quebec
Their food is cheap.
Yeah.
Like the food at the restaurants and pubs.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot cheaper than here. And quite good.
They have actual food production out there. Where do you think you get your cheese, buddy?
From the dairy
from the Safeway.
Supply chain managed dairy cartel of Canada.
The same one that sunk poor Bernier.
But so that's the third one that's ripping up Kenny. What was the first one? I don't even remember.
That face he's walking around with.
The second one was economics and Keystone.
The first was Keystone. The first one was not applying to his base.
Oh yeah, lockdown stuff is tearing him apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, this third one is again an issue where he's not pandering to his base. And it's this fair deal stuff. You know all we've gotten on the fair deal issue so far?
What?
The big announcement a few weeks ago?
No.
An Alberta parole board.
What?
Oh, yeah, exactly. What? No one cares.
It wasn't even in the recommendations.
No. We went through every recommendation.
Every single one, top to bottom.
Like, we're acting on the fair deal initiative.
He did not mention the prison system.
I was surprised when I heard about it. Like, okay, whatever. We got a parole board. Okay.
Did anybody have a problem with it to begin with?
I don't know. I literally don't know why it was important. I don't know enough about how the parole board used to work, and I don't know what the difference is, so it's basically something I can't comment on at all other than who gives a shit.
Yeah.
So he's not doing anything on any of that stuff. Now, there is the plebiscite or referendum coming up this year with the municipal elections.
And then she's still butthurt about that.
And then she doesn't like it, no. But
we should have our own.
We don't know what the question's going to be. But
okay, normally when the state wants you to do something, they have some goddamn set of ads. Like, have you seen I sent you the ones for the Alberta government, COVID's visiting for the holidays, when they dress some guy in some kind of like germ outfit, and
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's quirky. But like, there hasn't been a lot of state-based propaganda as to how they want me to vote. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
they're like, hey, don't
I
you
think
want
they
your
want to fuck it up as much as they can.
Okay.
I don't think Kenny really, his heart absolutely is not in it. And
it'll be a smashing
there
success
has to be major pressure. So did you see, what was it, last week? Drew Barnes,
yeah,
who's sort of
he's a lad.
He's kind of the thorn in the side of Kenny on now the lockdown stuff.
He's
but
Kenny's Hildebrand.
Yeah, Kenny would love to get rid of him, but I don't think they can. But yeah, Barnes is kind of the guy pushing. He wrote the contrary fair deal report, like the, what do they call it when there's a judge's decision? Oh, the dissenting opinion or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the minority report or something. I don't know, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wrote like his own version.
Yeah.
And he said like the fair deal panel recommendations like don't go nearly far enough, like that kind of stuff. So he was
on that fucking panel.
He was on the panel, and that's why he wrote the dissenting report.
He could have, I don't know, put it in the fucking report.
Well, I think he was part of the original one, but
what? So you're telling me there was a panel put together that he had no input on their directions, and he was on that panel?
I don't know how it works.
On the fucking panel.
I don't know how it works.
That is like they probably... Okay, imagine
Like, you saw that report. It's so full of stupid shit.
I understand, but he's on that fucking board that put that report together.
Which is why he put out the alternative report.
Well, then
probably because he thought the main report was shit.
Okay, but it's his work.
We don't know how much of his work is in that one. Why didn't everyone put out a dissenting report?
Maybe because they haven't positioned themselves as a fucking lad.
Or when judges issue their decisions, like Supreme Court.
There was two MLAs on there, I think. 2 other MLAs.
Yeah, I think there's 3 total.
Yeah, and they just wanted to, fuck it, just hammer a paycheck.
Yeah.
I consulted with my constituents. Yeah, this all looks good.
Yeah, but anyway, Barnes the other day, or a week or 2 ago.
I don't buy it.
He said they should attach an independence referendum to the 2023 provincial election. And Kenny's like, no, you can't do that.
He literally said that because he knew it would never happen.
No, it puts Kenny in a bad spot because now Kenny has to respond, and he's like,
he doesn't have to respond to shit, dude.
Dude, what are you talking about? Of course he does.
He doesn't.
You're just being pointlessly argumentative. Of course he does.
I am not giving Barnes the benefit of the doubt, is what I'm saying.
I don't understand what you're saying.
I think that he's just another fucking politician.
They're all fucking politicians.
But
that's not the point.
Going around and
of course they're all politicians. They're all lying, stupid, shitty scumbags. They all are. The point is, politics still moves things around a little bit. And sometimes a shithead can be on your side on a particular issue. They're all scumbags. I
just find it weird that he was involved with the report, yet somehow I don't know. I just can't get past it. I have difficulty because it's just like, look, dude, you put your fucking name on it.
I don't know.
I guess.
I don't know what to say.
It's by committee, I guess. If I had to be fair.
He could have not put out the alternative report.
He could have easily. And maybe, so what does he lose by not putting it out? Does Kenny really have to respond to that, though?
Obviously. I don't know how it's a question. If someone in your party basically goes publicly and says, attach this outrageously provocative referendum onto the provincial election, you're gonna have to respond to it.
He's just gonna say he's entitled to his opinion.
Well, that's what he was forced to say, but only after he first said, he basically chastised him, and he's like, oh, it's part of our party, principles to support federalism and not independence, and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, so you're going to do anything about it? He's like, no, won't do anything about it. We expect them to share their opinions. And maybe this is a huge weak spot for Kenny. He can't win because he wants to be the prime minister. But all that's going up in smoke. So if I was him, I'd just go fucking blitzkrieg.
Do you know what I would do? I'd go get whoever that white nationalist is that gave money to Sloan, give a contribution, just tuck it in there into a bunch for fucking Barnes, and then just be like, hey guys, come over here. This guy's a white nationalist. Get him.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of the party, you fucking white nationalist scum.
You just have to submit donations from bad people to people.
Yeah, you don't
take them out.
Yeah, so you just got to do a distributed. So you get together 10 grand, right? You just send them from a bunch of different post offices under some bullshit names. Just do money orders. But get this one white nationalist, or better yet, maybe a Proud Boy. Because they're even worse, maybe. And get him to give him money. And then it just sneaks in there. And then about 6 months later, you'd be like, you took money from this white nationalist. Are you a white nationalist sympathizer?
Yeah, Kenny it'll take anyone down.
How has Kenny
Everyone's terrified of being associated with anyone unsavory like that.
So do you think Kenny has risen to the position that he's in by being careful and prudent, or by being like vicious behind the scenes?
Well, I think he's like a probably smart politician who's like a few steps ahead of some of his enemies, and obviously he's good at wielding power in the sense that his current position, at least, appears to show that he's known how to put himself in the right place at the right time and make the right deals and everything. So
I don't know.
Like I assume everything's got dirty deals going on.
Yeah. I have difficulty seeing him as like a prudent and cautious and enterprising and savvy man. Because based on his current actions, or these clearly these three problems that you've outlined, which are, they're doozies. How is he where he is? Is it just because like everyone else is so stupid that
I think
runs in that circle that he just is the cream?
No, I think it's in a way perhaps just reflective of a more general trend, which is, and I don't really consider Kenney to be a right-wing politician, but the perception of someone like him is like, oh, he's right-wing or he's a conservative. And I think a lot of conservatives, especially kind of weaselly, always apologizing Canadian ones, are having a really hard time right now because they're terrified of people saying bad things about them. They're terrified of the CBC saying bad things about them. They're terrified of being, labeled with all the dirty things that go with right-wing association. And I think Kenny's like absolutely fallen into that trap now. He's just he can't stand up for himself anymore. And he just comes across as weak and pathetic all the time, whether he's talking to Trudeau, whether he's talking about Keystone XL getting shut down, whether he's standing up to criticism or questions about his lockdown policies. He just sounds totally pathetic and no confidence in anything he's doing. And I think that's a general problem with a lot of people on the right nowadays. They just don't really stand up for right-wing or actually conservative positions.
Do you think Donald Trump was right-wing?
I think he's like a New York social democrat.
He's a business den.
I think he's definitely rougher.
Yeah.
He's a lot more like kind of a, I don't know, blue collarish style. Or maybe that's not the right way to characterize it, but he's just not a traditional politician, obviously.
Yeah.
But he never really talked about a lot of like really right-wing positions in my view. I think a lot of what's associated with right-wing was kind of like classism, because he was kind of like a buffoon and kind of said some kind of like dumb things.
Did you watch, are you familiar with the YouTuber Emp Lemon? EMP Lemon?
Who?
Emp Lemon. He made this masterpiece. I think it's about 35 minutes long. It was just called Meme Theory, how Donald Trump used memes to become president. You've seen that?
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant.
I think it's one of the most crucial kind of analyses ever.
But I thought it was a brilliant analysis as well. And it's very, it seems to come at it from kind of a neutral perspective. I think there's a few giveaways that of what the person's political orientation is, but he doesn't seem to color the analysis much. It's very straightforward and makes a very good argument. And I think it really shows that in some ways, Donald Trump was an absolutely brilliant politician, but it seemed like, and I mean, that's not a good thing. Like, being a good politician is not a good quality people should have. But
You have to admire Trudeau in some
I think
ways.
he's a good politician.
God
and
damn.
again, that's not a compliment. He shouldn't be a good politician, but I think he's a weird left-wing populist.
Yeah.
And I think he sells it very well in a way that I personally find creepy, unsettling, and objectionable. But I hate to say it, got to acknowledge the truth. A lot of people are into it.
Yeah. Do you think that, do you find him deplorable as a person, though?
I guess it depends what you mean by as a person.
Like, outside of being a politician, like, do you think he's just a garbage person? Like, do you look at him and be like, you know what? I think this is all grift for you. I think that the Trudeau Foundation has somehow magically quadrupled in donations, and you just so happen to be still sitting on that board. Your buddies are making out like bandits.
Well, I think you kind of have to be a bad person to get into a position like that. Because what are you good at to rise to the top of politics? You have to be good at wielding power, manipulating people, and lying to people.
You're gonna have some good hair.
Well, usually you don't need good hair, but I think we're moving into a stage where people are going to be liking younger politicians, and they're kind of becoming this weird celebrity class almost, where, like, think of the Pierre guy.
Polyev?
Yeah, who just got the boot from his position
Weapon.
in the federal conservative like shadow cabinet.
Yeah.
Opposition cabinet. And
they moved him back to his old position.
He was the most popular guy, and he was kind of younger. But I think, maybe I'm just, speaking from experience, but it seems like there's this growing shift away from like old wise people. And I'm not saying politicians are wise, but wisdom kind of comes with age more.
Yeah.
And now it seems like it's this weird, like, internet, Twitter, celebrity politician thing.
I think people have always wanted sound bites, but I think there's something about the person who makes a principled stand. I think there's a reason why people always really liked Ron Paul deep down.
Yeah, well, Ron Paul was a pretty interesting person as a politician, I mean.
And to a lesser extent Rand, but like I think they just want somebody that isn't a backslipping kind of mealy mouth fucking bitch. Like they want someone who does not who has a set of principles and maintains them.
Well, that's what Obama was supposed to be too. He was supposed to be like the non-establishment guy.
Isn't that exactly what he did?
He was kind of the establishment guy, but
that sounds like
the perception is that he's kind of like, everyone always wants to be the outsider. Like even John McCain, remember, he's like, I'm the maverick.
Yeah, the Straight Talk Express.
John McCain.
Dude, what a fuck.
Remember John McCain? We were talking earlier though about like, is Trudeau a good politician?
Yeah.
And then before that, is Trump a good politician? And I think Trump basically was, like, in a lot of ways a brilliant politician, partly because of the argument in that meme video, how he used memes to win.
Yeah.
But I wonder sometimes, remember Steve Bannon, who's kind of like a grifter crook now or whatever? He's being prosecuted for fraud or something. I don't know.
He was pardoned. He was pardoned, first of all.
Oh yeah, before the trial, but the other three guys weren't.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, but anyway, do you think Steve Bannon was like, because he was involved in that campaign and kind of like the three main ideas that I think were Trump's main selling features, do you think Bannon was like the bulk of the genius behind like Trump as a politician?
Based on that video, I have to say no. However, I think that Bannon had his finger on the pulse at that time. I think he's a bit of a he's a bit sketchy. He seems like the kind of guy that, you run into at 3 a.m. doing coke. Like he's just, um, he's smart, but like
I think he's a bit of a
yeah,
a weird character. Like
you want to call this guy a kook, but like
he's pretty strange. But so then let me bring the conversation back forward again to Trudeau. So do you think, say for the sake of argument, like someone like Bannon or some other people or whatever, say they're the brains behind Trump, as a politician, and maybe that's true because he did seem to become almost less politically competent over time. Yeah. Maybe that's just my interpretation. Yeah. But so now think of Trudeau. Does Trudeau have people that make the Trudeau? We know Trudeau is an actor.
Yeah.
And you can see that he's like always performing. In my opinion, it's like pretty obvious. He's like laying it on thick.
Clearly a master of his craft.
He seems like a B movie actor.
Ronald Reagan, maybe. Right?
Well, I don't know. Pretty different styles, but
maybe.
Well, people always say politics is like show business for ugly people.
That's true. Reagan was a fucking man. He was a good looking dude in the 60s.
I kind of forget. He seemed like regular dude.
Yeah, he was put together. Yeah, you see him smoking cigarettes wearing a cowboy hat.
Yeah, that's
getting
pretty
it done.
Cool.
He's like, "Fuck yeah, lady, what's up?"
But so,
pow, what's up?
Like Trudeau, is Trudeau like a nutcase that's totally running the show?
No, I think he is.
Or is he a total bumbling idiot who's just being like steered around?
I think he's kind of like, how in movies or like you get this impression about this idea of the moneyed liberal.
Yeah, the limousine liberal.
Yeah. So
he's the classic limousine liberal.
Yeah, like he's like buying canned air, and he only buys organic. Like he gets very upset if his utensils aren't wood based instead of, you know what I mean? Like I think he's got this set of principles that he thinks that by adhering to them he'll save the world. But he also really fucking loves money. You know what I mean? And so he doesn't. He thinks that doing the right thing, in a given situation is not is the principle in itself. So it's not derived from principles. It is the principles. He's chaotic good, for lack of a term, right? And people want fucking lawful good. They want a guy. That's why they like Polyev. They're like, yeah, go shit on those fucking guys. They fucked up. You're also a scumbag, but also you're our scumbag. You're our shitty lawyer. Now go be a scumbag.
Yeah.
And that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, and it kind of goes back to that thing I said earlier about how anyone kind of perceived to be conservative or associated with the right, like the right itself is becoming like a toxic term. But they're just terrified they're always conceding everything because they're terrified of bad things being said about them. And it seems like the people going after them don't really worry about that as much. Like they're incredibly aggressive, seem quite nasty.
Did you end up have you watched any of the new Discourses talks?
I don't believe so.
They're really good. So he just did a 4-parter on Herbert Marcuse and his essay, Repressive Tolerance. And his assertion is that this is exactly what we're seeing right now, where the paradox of tolerance, right? Which is an old fucking, Hop quotes him all the time.
Popper.
Yeah. It's an old Popper thing. And so this Marcuse's answer to this was like, yeah, you have to let the left do whatever the fuck they want because it's in the direction of progress, and anything that is right wing is bad. So, in order to have any progress, we must practice repressive tolerance in these things. So that's why any populist, like the closest you can get to right wing anything is populism, because like, right, so you have to break down conservative into all these like subsections, and it's very clear the delineation between liberal and leftist, right? It's a pretty easy line to draw. But you have conservative and what? Where's the further to the right than these people that are tolerated in kind of normal society?
Further to the right, it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, there's all kinds of categories for the counter-revolutionary groups. But I mean, there's kind of the
answer is
traditional
fascist.
religious version.
The answer is fascist.
Yeah, there's fascist is a product of the right. It's but I don't think that's necessarily the one point. Like, there seems to be this divergence as you go right, whereas the left converges on kind of a single egalitarian point. There's almost like these different variations of the anti-egalitarian position on to the right. So that can be in kind of like a religious or traditional sense, or it could be like ethnic or racial sense, or it could be different kinds of hierarchy, I guess. But
That's a horrible answer.
I don't know.
Well, do you? Yeah, like I think we both agree it's complicated, but I just don't. I think somebody who's a quote unquote liberal, which is believes in Lockean liberal theory, they're just like, oh, those are business stems or whatever the fuck they want to call them, and I have these proper leftists that they're like, oh, all these things are human rights and should be free. And then it gets really, really close to these hardcore socialists, and then we have Marxists and communists. And the communist to liberal kind of gulf is huge. And then to the right of that spectrum, as far as we can understand, like there's no nuance to right wing anything in common parlance, because they just don't really exist as a faction with an asserted set of policies on what they think is right. So you end up with conservative groups that are like, oh, well, I'm a socially conservative, or I'm fiscally conservative, or all these other silly things that are delineations within that group. They don't just go, I don't fucking believe that, I believe this. Right?
Well, some of them, I mean, I think depending on kind of the category, like there seems to be these quite a range of possibility as to how the right manifests. Whereas,
okay, in Canadian politics, can you find me a right centrist or a left leaning, conservative, as an example? Someone who's closer to the middle, someone who's a little bit of a lefty for a fucking conservative party guy.
lefty, like, I don't really know. Aren't they all basically what we would call left parties?
Yeah, they're like liberal. They're still liberals in their policies. So who's the most hardcore right, right of center member of the Canadian Conservative Party? Who's the Jacob Rees-Mogg of fucking...
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, they don't exist.
I don't think they exist. They are pretty much indistinguishable from the Liberal Party of Canada.
You have people that are like, oh, well, because like there's maybe that's what Sloan was about. He's like, well, I'm not an abortion guy. I don't believe in abortion. I believe that that's murdering babies, and that's it. Because I have a religious foundation for it or something like that. And that's as far right as we can go, I think. And he gets turfed. He gets the axe. He's got to go. He's got to get out of this party, this conservative party that is the only right side party of Canada. He's got to go because he's a racist. He's a filthy racist, an avowed white nationalist with ties to white nationalists, known avowed white nationalists. And I'm pretty sure I saw Proud Boy flags in one of his Zoom calls. And I think he's read Mein Kampf, probably. It's forbidden knowledge. And I think that's as far as you can go. Like the furthest you can go on the right is, I think you're killing babies. I mean, in terms of the I guess maybe I'll frame it as an Overton would know, but like,
what are we talking about in Canada then? Maybe I misunderstood the original
I guess
question.
I'm just saying that the paradigm on it just seems like there's a nice big fucking color gradient for explaining left leaning politics, and there's just this fucking monochrome for fucking right, where it's just like he's kind of conservative or he's a fucking fascist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So do you, as you understand it, because for some reason people who avow themselves as right in politics seem to enjoy the idea of like corporate handouts. Like they fucking love it. Like they're like, yeah, I'm a super hardcore conservative. You're not going to change me, Trudeau. And you're like, hey, I'm going to give a fucking $1 billion to this bank. And he's like, we got to save this bank. You got to do it. Think of all the jobs you just saved. I'm for this bailout. They fucking love it. They're like, hey, should we give Husky $1 million? And people on there's dyed in the wool Alberta conservatives that are just like, yeah, good call.
Well, people loved. A lot of people were pretty happy about the Kenney investment in Keystone XL.
It's going to create jobs.
Yeah. Well, jobs should not be the priority.
That's a pretty easy bet, though. I mean, politically, like, let's go back 3-4 years. Would you roll I'd roll those dice for fucking sure. I'd roll those dice. Are you kidding me?
If
think about the unionized pipe fitters of fucking South Dakota.
I mean, I bet if Notley had bought Trans Mountain, for example, I bet you, unfortunately, it would have gone over well with a lot of people
on the right.
Yeah, well, in general.
Yeah, and people on the left would have just kept their fucking mouth shut.
No, they would have been, they're like, yeah, power to the people.
It's important for the state to have a role in infrastructure. They would just come up with some kind of fucking nonsense like that.
Well, a lot of people, sort of the social democrat folks, they would say it's better to have the state-owned oil company rather than, the private stuff.
Norway's got $1 billion. They got $1 billion in their investment fund. It's because the state runs it. That would be their argument. Not Venezuela, though.
What about so I'm kind of interested in this idea of the right in Canada and the left in Canada.
Yeah.
And
so we touched on it in the fact that there's 4 leftist parties.
Yeah, federally they all are basically.
Where would you put
now SOCONs or social conservatives? They basically have no place to go other than the party that has conservative in the title. And as you saw with the Sloan thing, now I don't really know too much about Sloan, but obviously he's got SoCon qualities. And for some of the mainstream nice Canadian conservatives, they don't like that kind of stuff because they think it makes them seem backwards or whatever.
No.
So a lot of those people just kind of have to go into the Conservative Party because there's nothing else. Like the right was united, so there's nowhere else to go.
No.
So they can pretty much be 1 milliliter, 1 millimeter, 1 inch to the right of Trudeau.
Yeah.
And they've got the whole right snatched up.
Yeah.
Unless there's some alternative. Now, that basically means that wherever Trudeau puts himself is where the Federal Conservative Party puts itself.
Yeah.
And if Trudeau moves farther to the left, for example, then the so-called centrist Conservative Party will accompany him to the left.
With the helmsman Aaron O'Toole.
So then that makes the SoCons ever more uncomfortable and greater liabilities.
Yeah, they got to go. They have no home. The question is, they don't even deserve a voice. Democracy is not for them. They got backwards belief. They might as well be
democracy
fascists.
Doesn't work for minorities.
They might as well be fascists.
Look at the indigenous peoples. Democracy doesn't work for them very well.
So how come there hasn't been a movement to have a member of parliament appointed for every tribe?
That'd be interesting.
Wouldn't that be fucking hilarious? 1 MP per tribe.
But we really don't want to increase the involvement. Like,
I'd fucking just, burn this shit down.
No, you don't want to increase the involvement in parliament. You got to go the other direction.
How do you prevent yourself from becoming an accelerationist? How do you stop yourself?
I feel like I might be one now.
Yeah.
Like all this lockdown stuff has kind of pushed me towards like right-wing Leninism.
Have you ever felt more alienated from the general populace around you? Like having the foolish...
The general populace, perhaps, but for people with whom I'm a little more aligned, it's the opposite direction.
So you feel closer to the people that aren't
trying to destroy everyone's life with lockdowns.
Okay. So when you see a guy not wearing a mask, you're like, "What's up, buddy?"
Maybe.
This. Yeah. Give him a pound. Give him a sweaty handshake.
Yeah, masks.
Fucking spit in his mouth.
You got to start wearing 3 masks.
3 masks. Fuck 3 masks. I'm on to 5, buddy.
Well, I'm on to 7.
Well, how high do you want to go, buddy? I just live in a bubble. Do you think you lack virtue because you're not afraid?
Well, I don't know. We're all afraid of something, I guess.
But like, you should be afraid of COVID.
I'm really not afraid of the virus.
Do you think that means you're less virtuous than those who are?
Not really.
Do you consider yourself a moral person?
No, not really.
No?
No.
How do you assert anything as being correct if you don't consider yourself a moral individual?
Well, I'm not saying I'm not necessarily hypocritical in certain regards.
Okay.
But anything that's true should stand for itself. And in any case, I'm certainly better than any politician because I haven't hurt anybody.
Do you think identifying and associating yourself with, observable truth makes you virtuous or moral?
I don't understand the question.
If you're just like, guys, this is what's right, and it just so happens to be right, do you think that makes you more virtuous or moral socially?
If you're right on a question as big as this,
yeah,
that definitely gives you a leg up on everyone else.
Do you think that...
Because this is an issue where you are not allowed to just casually make a judgment about it and be wrong.
Do you think that in pursuit of even the chance of saving lives, it is virtuous to request of a populace to defer of some of their liberties of which the state gave them to begin with.
No, I don't accept the question.
The state, in case if you look at our charter, it's the state gives us our liberties. So those are the rules. Don't care what's right. It's true, because that's the charter. Queen owns this shit.
No, they can't take away anything.
The queen owns the land. God made the queen. These are right things. These are true because God said so. So they've got this charter. Government gave you your rights, and they can take them away when it's important. And they said this is important. So by interfering with that, that makes you immoral, unclean.
Well, no. Look, the whole thing where it's like you don't care about people if you oppose the lockdowns is pretty much the stupidest, most dangerous way to have a debate about public health imaginable.
It's because anybody who is against it sucks at framing an argument. They fucking suck at it.
I've heard amazingly persuasive arguments against lockdowns, and I haven't heard politicians basically ever make them.
Well, then why does everybody support them? They fucking love them.
Well, that's the thing. It's interesting that you say that because there's
even if it's a 50-50 split. Yeah.
A lot of these polls, like I was looking at one of them, and it was interesting because yes, it said like, would you support like stricter measures if it like reduced, the bad consequences basically. Yeah. So what if it doesn't? Would you support them then? Well, no. And then there's another thing. If
so the pollsters are in
so
on
the question's like baked into like, well, of course I'd support it if it worked. So then it's kind of a consequentialist issue, and the fact that it doesn't work, of course, never gets to these people. But then there's the other thing where, so yeah, they support more lockdowns or more measures if it helps basically.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when asked if they believe it's people's civil rights should be denied to fight the virus, like most of them say no. So it's incoherent. Apparently they don't put it together that there are rights violations involved in the lockdowns, and then the question of whether the lockdowns work is kind of like unspoken. It's just assumed they work. And it is kind of intuitive or plausible. Yeah, lock people down and people will spread the virus less. That's just not how it appears to work. Like there's so little evidence that the lockdowns do.
But like the idea of presenting people a problem that they didn't know existed and mangling it in such a way that they'll beg you for the fucking, solution to that problem that they never fucking had to begin with.
Oh, it's a great racket.
Yeah. But like, how do you protect these people? Can it be stopped?
Yes, it can be.
How?
You don't even need the majority of the people. You just need
20%,
5 to 10% to like resist utterly.
I think
the state can't fight large numbers of people not going along with it. They just can't do it.
So the average person who's both in favor of stricter measures if it leads to less deaths and also against trampling on civil liberties, when they observe a protest, what do you think their initial reaction is? It's disgust.
Yeah, they hate those people.
It's disgust.
They hate the protesters.
They're like, you're
killing grandma.
Yeah.
But that's entirely selective because, of course, it's very curious, as we saw, that some kinds of protests definitely going to spread the virus. Yeah. Other kinds of protests definitely okay.
So,
which we saw in I guess like police brutality riots in the U.S. and racial justice. Like even Calgary had them, and like yeah, sure. The treatment of like basically you don't have the right to protest the right or having your right to protest being taken away in a sense. Like the lockdown stuff which prevents like gatherings and such.
Yeah. But you got to wear a mask.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to do that.
This protest is against wearing a mask. They're like, but you got to wear a mask. I don't understand. Like the law of contradiction kicks in so fucking hard that they can only react with disgust. You know what I mean? They're like, none of those people are wearing masks. And I don't think it's fair to compare it to, a bunch of cooked up BLM fucking protests because people want to, no one likes the idea of the cops fucking killing people. It seems really shitty, especially, wrongful deaths. And it's pretty visceral watching a dude fucking choke. It's not very fun. And they gotta direct that angst somewhere, and this seems to be a good way to do it. Most people just went home and beat their wives, but
well, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. You could be protesting.
I just don't think it's a contradict. Like it's hypocritical of other people to be upset about, but I don't believe it's I'm not upset about either of it. And I think that's the position one should take. But I do think it seems so fucking stupid to look at a anti-mask protest and be upset that they're not wearing masks.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. You're like, oh, you're too close together. You're spreading it to the hundreds of people.
It's like, what if we all sign waivers? And they're like, oh, but all the people, you'll get sick. You're like, what if I quarantine for 10 days afterwards? I'm like, not
just insane.
Not good enough.
Look, it's life. I before all the live shows got shut down, I used to go to metal concerts.
Yeah.
I got sick 4 out of 5 metal concerts, man. Like, it's just life.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah, but this kills everyone. Kills everyone. Do you think the average Canadian is willing to suffer and die for their freedoms?
Did you say average Canadian?
Yes.
No.
No?
Obviously not.
Do you think they value liberty and freedom?
Most of them, no.
Do you think that they equate freedom with a lack of tyranny?
Most of them, no.
No?
Wait, freedom with a lack of tyranny?
Yeah, it's not that you're necessarily as free as you could be. Like anytime you go to Vegas and you walk,
no, a lot of them are so terrified of making a decision for themselves, they would welcome tyranny. Maybe they'll welcome the Trudeau tyranny, or maybe they'll welcome the, I don't know what else there is. The jag meat tyranny.
I'd still have a beer with that. I don't care what you say. I'd have a beer with that guy for sure.
I honestly think he's like my least hated federal party leader.
Same way I felt about Layton.
No, Layton was trash.
No,
he's a scumbag.
How dare you, man? He was a scumbag like the rest of us. He got caught in a fucking rub and tug down Toronto, and he got away with it. He fucking just slipped out the back. He's like, look, guys, I'm pretty important. I was just, look, a man has needs. Don't kink shame me. I like to pay people money for sex. That's my kink. They jerk me off, but they only use their forearms. That's how we get away with it in Thailand.
Jack Layton.
Look, I'd have a beer with that guy for sure.
Jack Layton?
Yeah.
After he's been to his his massage parlor?
Yeah, sure. I bet I
don't know.
I would.
But if Jag Meat, and we're talking the leader of the NDP, so the
horrible policies.
So if he's the least detestable, and I think he's like probably even I don't know if this is mean or whatever, but it is a politician. I think he might be dumber than Trudeau. But for some reason, he's just almost the least detestable. So his competition is what? Trudeau himself.
Yeah.
Aaron O'Toole, who was preceded by Andrew Scheer. So these are the conservative leaders.
The specter of
like,
Scheer.
Horrible. Scheer was horrible. Aaron O'Toole is horrible. No charisma at all. Completely unlikable. And then
Green Party.
Green Party is like
didn't she get
disgusting.
Didn't she step down?
Yeah, I think so. So I guess we just have to refer. I think she stepped down as leader, but I think she still got her seat, if I'm not mistaken.
And Francois
but
Legault.
She's like this. Oh yeah, So okay, hang on. The Green Party. I don't even know who the new leader is or what the deal is with that. But Elizabeth May is just a detestable, wretched, like, alcoholic, disgusting politician.
How do you know she's an alcoholic?
Because she's been busted like totally inebriated on video like multiple times.
Does she have a DUI or anything?
I don't know. I don't know.
But
then the Bloc Québécois guy, and he's just
Blanchett.
Yeah, I don't really. He's not very likable. Like, I wish we had a weird regional party in there to just. I mean, no one cares, but
so Canadians.
The Bloc Québécois guy is just in there arguing for what he thinks is good for Quebec.
I appreciate it.
He doesn't really have.
If I was Quebecois, I'd fucking love him.
Yeah, I might too. Like, I wouldn't agree with his ways to make Quebec better, but at least it would seem like
sell more hydro to the U.S., take more Alberta bucks.
But yeah, it's the constant struggle. The West has very poor representation in the federal system.
Did you hear about the ex Greater Canadian Gaming CEO who flew to the Yukon to get his COVID shot?
Yeah, he's
scandalous.
Does that show you're really dedicated to the COVID narrative?
Yeah, people are really upset about it, and be like, "Look, if you thought
Trudeau is basically come up with an entire like travel restriction scheme just to deflect all this criticism over the vaccine situation, because people are so like obsessed with these vaccines. Like, obviously there's like 30 or 40% of the population who doesn't want it.
Yeah.
But for the people who want it, like, I need the vaccine.
Yeah. So like, can you really shit on that guy because he has the means to go and do it?
I can shit on him for wanting the vaccine that desperately.
Okay.
Because then I think he's succumbed to the fear.
Do you think all the NHL players are going to get vaccinated before everyone else again?
Yeah, probably.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
Absolutely.
Like, the only reason I care is insofar as the people who want it will like get off our case if they get the damn thing.
So the federal policy is that provinces and even municipalities are free to go and make their own deals. They're free to go and make their own deals for vaccination, like, amounts. They can go and they're like, yeah, if you want to go and buy it, go ahead. We're not going to stop you. You should probably stick with the federal program because we'll be able to purchase more. But so there's been two separate.
Well, think of Kenney. Look at the politics here. Hang on, pardon the interruption.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. So you go through the federal government thinking it's like, oh yeah, perfect. What a great centralized system. And then they screw it up, of course. And then you get to blame Trudeau for all your problems. Because look what's been going on with Kenney and Shandro and all these press conferences.
Are they like,
we'd love to open up the economy, but Trudeau won't get the vaccines.
Well, no, they kind of said that there's been. They just said there's manufacturing issues. Do you know what those manufacturing?
No, they've been blaming Trudeau. Politics is all about the enemy.
I haven't seen I thought the Canadian Armed Forces were supposed to go and fucking get involved with this, weren't they? They're like, oh, we're gonna get the army to go and distribute this shit. Like a bunch of.
Oh yeah, like stupid.
Like, do you think, because they're not doing that. Do you think that they said that in order to comfort people?
Yeah,
Or
I think some people think that sounds like, wow, this is going to be amazing. The army's delivering it.
they'll get it done.
There's a lot of people who have a lot of faith in the whole central. Even people who think the government sucks at most things, they're like, yeah, the army's efficient.
Yeah. They have to be, right? They have doctrines. I don't call it military if I want to get a package from A to B. I call fucking Purelator.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what people expect. People have way too high expectations of Ottawa, especially, but any government. And on something on this kind of scale, like, of course it's going to be a disaster. And Canada, everyone's making fun of them because they even as far as other government screw ups, ours appears to be the worst. Not only in terms of this vaccine procurement thing, which is totally unsurprising to me, but also the economic performance where our debt has gone up the most, and yet we've got the highest unemployment. So basically we're getting like the least out of the most indebtedness.
I guess I'm at that weird age that I remember grainy video of thalidomide. Like, do you ever see those thalidomide babies?
Yes. And
approved, good to go. And they're like, oh, we've come such a long way. And I was like,
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, it makes me I'm not even really opposed to the vaccine as such.
Well, if you're
these ones are sketchy, and I think a lot of people agree who also are not generally opposed to vaccines necessarily.
Do you think it's only crazy hippie people that don't want to get vaccines and right-wing conspiracists?
I think that's a lot of them.
Orthodox Jews.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the portion, but I mean, it's a huge percentage. Like, even in healthcare settings, it's 30 sometimes like 20, 30, 40% don't want it.
Seen some big numbers.
And general population, I mean, it seems like a lot of people don't want it on multiple sides, either because they think it hasn't been experimented with enough, or they just don't like them in general. Some people, would get some kinds of vaccines, but they wouldn't get a flu vaccine every year. And some people are kind of like thinking this is sort of in the same category, like they trust their own immune system more.
The Cadillac of immune systems.
It's a pretty nice immune system.
It's amazing. Wasn't there a lawsuit for some nurses unions because they're being forced to take it, and a lot of their members don't want to take it, and they think that's like...
I've seen that a lot over the years with influenza vaccine requirements.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there will be cases like that.
Wouldn't you also make the argument that only the infirm would suffer any consequences from this vaccine, and so they're acceptable casualties?
You mean if you have a bad reaction to a vaccine,
yeah,
you're like an old person?
Yeah, that it's
old and infirm?
Well, no, not just old and infirm. It's just like, look, if you're in that group that dies from or has some kind of horrible reaction to this, it's of lesser consequence than the dead grannies that fill the stadium. Yeah, McMahon Stadium full of dead grannies. That if a bunch of people that don't fucking matter have weird side effects, you think that's an acceptable cost to save all those grannies?
Well, I don't know. I guess not. I mean,
do you think
think in those terms?
Do you think every child should have to get it in order to attend public school?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't think you should have to have like a forced medical operation like that to use a tax-funded service when the level of danger is so low.
If you're a proponent for total body autonomy, then clearly you just, you're are you secretly an Orthodox Jew? Like what's
No, but I don't think she should have a
But
requirement to get injected.
what about the immunocompromised kids? Everybody's got to look out for him.
You know what? I didn't really know what was up with all that stuff. I saw this. There was some county or district or city or whatever, and it was in California, and they were having some hearing, like input from the community about having requirements of the public schools to have certain vaccinations.
Yeah.
And the number of people who came in who were doctors and just seemingly kind of regular parents, who were totally opposed. Like I was shocked by the numbers and the different stories people had. Like it was basically just this big mob, and they were all lined up to speak at the microphone for like, they would only get like a few seconds, but very quickly they'd be like, immunocompromised situation, or all these doctors would come up and be like talking about patients who had negative reactions to them and stuff. And it seems like bigger than I would have thought. Like it was a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I don't think those people should be forced to do stuff like that.
But the argument then becomes, well, we force people to get vaccinated to go to other countries or to come into the country. Do you think that that's unreasonable?
Yeah, I don't think she'd have to get a shot really to come into locations, but I think all that stuff should be really decentralized and focused more on like specific problems.
This is the biggest problem of our entire age.
But it's not like, no, to need to get like a vaccine for this to fly or something or to have some vaccine passport to enter the country, I think is pretty ridiculous. Totally unnecessary.
Have you been paying the attention to Trudeau's new kind of? I don't know why he gets to set these fucking laws or
just
policies.
Makes it up.
But like by what mandate does he get to fucking say this?
It's all administrative control. Like the bureaucracy runs everything.
Are we currently in a health emergency federally?
Probably. I don't even remember.
It was declared. I don't know if it's ever been rescinded. Same thing with Alberta. Are we in a health emergency? That's what empowers the Alberta Health Services to ask you where you're coming from, where you're going.
They could have done that before. It's all politics when they declare it's an emergency.
Yeah.
It was back, November when they declared it.
I thought the emergency not only empowered certain organizations, but allowed access to certain fundings and to operate under certain policies. Like when Nenshi declared it for the city, he could just like show up and take your shit. He could go to a construction company and be like, you're doing this now. And they're like, no. Yeah. And he's like, you're going to jail and I'm getting your stuff.
Yeah, it was crazy.
He didn't. I'm not saying that he did. That's a crazy amount of power.
No, they have way too much power in emergencies. Emergency powers. Some people have said like, the government has to use its emergency powers. The federal government.
People always say that when they're looking for money.
Yeah, they want money and power.
They have to declare fiscal emergency and
fiscal emergency.
Yeah, we gotta give these banks some money.
I just want them to take the politicians out and like humiliate them publicly. Like, I don't know if it's tarring and feathering or whatever you got to do, but these politicians need to really apologize, beg forgiveness.
You think they should have like a Japanese style thing where they have to have a press conference and put their forehead to the fucking floor, prostrate themselves?
I don't know what it looks like necessarily in a concrete situation because it's so alien to modern politics.
Yeah.
But they should be begging for forgiveness, whatever that looks like.
I would like some cultural revolution style shit where we just chain them to a chair in the town square and everyone comes up and fucking calls them a piece of shit.
Is it the old Babylonian thing where they They take the king outside the city walls and strip him naked once a year, and he has to like confess how he's failed them.
Oh, yeah, but that's Trudeau. Trudeau does that all the time, though. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
He said sorry for blackface. He said sorry for, I don't know, blackface, I think. Triple blackface incidents.
He said sorry for what the Canadian government did to Indians.
Oh yeah, he said sorry for the genocide.
He said sorry for turning away boats of immigrants. During World War Jews, World War II. Apparently, we turned away a bunch of Jewish immigrants.
Did he say sorry for elbowing the woman in Parliament?
He did.
I'm sorry. Oh, and did he say I'm sorry that she experienced it differently when he like sexually groped some woman? That reporter?
No, he never said sorry for that. He never said.
He just said she experienced it differently.
You know he's a feminist, right? How dare you?
That makes it okay.
Yeah, I'm a feminist. So there was the line of questioning that I had about the average Canadian.
How they hate liberty.
Yeah, I think. Do you think it's because they never had they don't have a culture of having had to seek independence and liberty? They were just kind of like the British gave up, and they were like, "Yeah, we still sort of own you, and you're part of this club that used to be colonies, but you guys can kind of do your own thing."
Sort of, but I also think they didn't. In some ways, like say you look at aspects of the police in the United States, or just the United States compared to most countries, like it seems like we haven't had as much maybe confrontation with our government over the years. Like it's been a little more like laid back Canadian style. So maybe there's just a different level of trust. I also think we don't really have some of the other social dynamics that they do in the US.
So the average Canadian having no fealty or loyalty or aspirations toward a state of liberty within reason, because you've observed it. Like even today, the mundane act of going to a restaurant to sit down and eat a meal unmolested is you're just kind of like, wow, the audacity of it. You know, it's like when you go to Vegas and you just walked in, you know, you just get a bottle of wine and a fucking cigarette and just walk around. You walk into a business, you're smoking. They're just like, hey, what's up? I'll take your money. I don't fucking care. They're like, oh, but what about secondhand smoking? They're like, fuck them. We got smoke eaters. They're the best in the world. Doesn't matter. They're going to be fine. You can smoke in here, sir. Please come in.
No, it's weird to see a show on TV or something where there's like 20 people in a room at a dinner party or something. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
I forgot what that was like.
Have you noticed no one's social distancing on TV? Wow. It's like it's not a real representation of the world. It's strange. So they don't have any love, I would say. No love for liberty.
Well, that's always how it's going to be.
But do you think, because I have this hypothetical, or like this example, that most Canadians, I think, just like those kind of COVID trick questions, you go, would you die for freedom? And I think because we're kind of cultural hand-me-downs from America, I think the average Canadian would say yes.
Well, it depends. Some people would have a different idea of freedom. Like they'd say, I'm free if my healthcare is free. Other people might say, no, the so-called free government healthcare reduces my freedom.
So, okay, then
So a lot of
would you, if you put this to the people, would you die to protect your chartered rights and freedoms?
some people would probably say yes.
I think the bulk of people would say yes.
They think they would.
They think they would. So the next question is, would you kill to protect your charter rights and freedoms? How many Canadians do you think would say, yes, I would fucking murder anyone that tries to take my freedom from me?
Yeah, but ethically, if you're killing to defend like your fundamental rights, and say that corresponds basically to your charter rights for the sake of argument, then you wouldn't really be murdering people.
I said
are
kill.
Taking those rights away.
I said kill.
Or you okay? So
die and kill.
I mean, that's the eternal question. Like when is it justified to use violence or force against?
No, I'm going above that. And not even about NAP and whether you're a fucking animal because you tried to kill me. The idea that people like the thing itself that they perceive as being their freedoms, their ability to do as they choose, free of consequence and molestation by the state. So that if they are infringed upon, they have avenues to rectify. That it is not okay in any situations for these rights to be denied by anyone. So that's, I think most people just go like, yeah, I have the right to free speech. In Canada, they think that. And they go, well, what about hate speech? And they're like, well, no, but that's not my speech. I don't say anything hateful. Like, not yet. So I think they have a conceptual idea of what their freedoms are under the charter. And I think they would agree that they'd be willing to die for it. But I don't think that they would agree that they'd be willing to kill for it.
That's probably true.
Why do you think that is?
Well, even though I think they're very likely lying to themselves, and deep down people could be turned into animals through political ideologies, where they will dehumanize the enemy and their normal moral compass will lose its strength. I think in general people would say they wouldn't do it because they just I don't know, maybe gentle at heart. Canadians seem pretty peace loving, almost pacifistic perhaps.
I think that's the fundamental difference between Canadians and Americans. I think if you ask the average American that question, 2 heartbeats, you get a fucking yep out of them. I think is the fundamental cultural divide that Canadians are not willing to kill to maintain or extend their freedom.
I mean, it's an interesting question because I don't think it ever gets put that way. Would you die for this is seems like a pretty normal question, but it never gets put as would you kill for this, other than like as a joke, like, oh man, wouldn't you kill for a burger right now?
I'd kill for a burger. I'd kill a politician for a burger right now.
You'll get banned for that
in Minecraft.
I think people are just more likely to go for the passive sacrifice, like the Buddhist who burns himself in the street versus the jihadi who runs into the building with bomb strapped to him.
Yeah. People,
and I think that makes sense.
There's like this fear of that I haven't really seen culturally in a long time. And granted, I didn't live through them, but it kind of has that weird like 60s vibe of like weird.
It's like a weird small town gossip kind of thing applied on like a universal scale.
Yeah, like politicians are getting upset because of their follower counts. Like it just seems so extreme. It can't all be Trump's fault. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Well, people need to get over it and go their separate ways. Like if people can't live together and get along, then you just shouldn't try to live together. It's that simple. It's like a bad romantic relationship.
you gotta get out.
You got to get out if you're that incompatible.
Well, why don't you go start your own social media platform?
No, I mean like
Just go start your own bank. You know, just go start your own fucking government. How about that?
yeah.
Go
Yeah,
start.
that would be awesome.
Yeah. Why don't we just start doing that?
Have a bunch of different governments pop up.
But I don't want Alberta to separate from the fucking Canadian Union. Go start your own fucking government. They don't want to. It's uncomfortable. I have a Mercedes that I still have 3 years of payments left on. I don't want to leave Canada right now. It seems very, very dangerous. I have an affordable mortgage rate. The Bank of Canada. It sounds terrible and sticky and scary, but Canadians don't value fucking freedom, so it won't fucking happen. So the question is, why did Quebec get so close? Was it about freedom? It was about spite.
I don't know what it's about, but there's enough of it in Alberta to get something out of it.
I still don't. Like you say that sentiment is rising, but I guess I'm just blind to it. So what is giving you?
It's not converting like an NDP voter to like Alberta separatism. It's converting people generally on the right of Alberta that Canada is, a dead end.
Bad deal.
It's a bad deal. So within that part of the population, it's more of that is shifting into the pro-separatist camp, and so that's why I would say that sentiment is growing.
Are you gonna cut and run? You yella?
Cut and run from Canada?
Yeah,
leave them with their debt.
You're gonna cut and run, huh? You're yella. I knew it. You no good.
The problem is Ottawa, like there's so many, it's such a mess, but I think especially with the absolute disaster Canada's finances are getting into, that the argument gets even stronger against it. Although one of the funny things is we've got this equalization referendum coming up, and the way things are going with the mismanagement of Kenney and his joke government and the total shambles of the situation here, it's actually going to be Alberta who's like a have-not province, and Ontario is going to be subsidizing the whole country.
I think the surest way to get a like that equalization thing to go through, that referendum to go through, is to have Kenney come out on one side or the other. If he comes out and he's like, I think we should leave, everyone in Alberta will fucking vote to stay.
He'll never say that.
Yeah, so if he says,
but that's the referendum isn't about that. It's about equalization. So it's some constitutional question, but there is no question. Like no one knows what it's going to be.
It's about Kenney. Let's be honest. He's presenting it, and
it'll be like the David Cameron Brexit thing.
Yeah,
he'll be like, I'm doing it because this is what Albertans want, and he won't publicly state an opinion other than he thinks like.
I think it's important that the will of the people gets heard.
Yeah, and I mean in general, you got to be careful. Some people want like, there should be referendum, like, it should be easier to get like a state or a citizen sponsored referendum, but I don't know, like, I'm afraid of what some people might vote for.
Like California?
Yeah.
Votes to repeals are always good.
Yeah, that like never happens.
Yeah.
Nothing gets repealed.
Nothing.
Stuff just gets piled onto more stuff.
They got a lot of lawyers down there to get
and then the
done.
bureaucracy takes it and writes 1,000 times the regulations to go with like one piece of legislation.
Well, the law's complicated. Listen to your legal class. And we got to have the political class kind of guide us. Because you guys are plebs and don't know what the fuck you're doing.
They don't even do all that much in the end. Like, it's pretty clear the bureaucracies run everything. And these, the different governments come and go, but the bureaucracy stays the same. And they're there for 20, 30, 40 years. They can wait out any individual government.
It's great. Do you think that Donald Trump was the reincarnation of Gaius Gracchus?
No.
No? He's the tribute of the plebs, dude.
No.
He's the tribute of the plebs, and they cut his head off and threw it in the fucking river.
No.
No?
He's a totally unique phenomenon in history.
I think he's a shyster.
Yeah, he's a shyster. Yeah. Like all politicians.
Yeah. He's just a chaos.
Does he shyst your way or does he shyst some other way?
Yeah.
Or
no,
in general, you're always going to lose to the political shyster.
I think we're going to look back on that as the most amazing thing to ever happen in fucking.
It was amazing. It was hilarious. It was bizarre. It was interesting. It exposed a lot of interesting truths about how the government works and how the media works.
Yeah.
I think it was quite interesting.
Do you continue week on week to think that Twitter and Facebook will eventually lead to the complete degradation of society? Do you have an OnlyFans account?
No, but I spend approximately $5,000 a month on OnlyFans.
Your money or your wife's boyfriend's money?
I stole my parents' credit card.
OnlyFans aside, because whenever I think of Instagram, I think of OnlyFans because
it's one step from Instagram to OnlyFans.
Yeah, it's a quick run, but I mean, look, you're only pretty for so many years, so fuck it, get money, like get paid. It's not my business, but we gotta get rid of it. We gotta get rid of it, dude. Someone's got to make the decision.
Nobody has to make the decision. People have to get a hold of themselves.
They're not gonna.
Of course they will.
This is the only time I become despotic in the
Some
entire
people are going to
conversation.
descend further and further into trash, but good people are opposed.
What if I could just keep those people that are opposed from getting together, away from churches and bars and any kind of social environment that wasn't on Twitter or Facebook? What if I could get those people to stop hanging out together?
You can't.
What if I showed up and gave them tickets and made them afraid?
You can't. They'll hang out anyway.
I haven't been hanging out.
People are breaking the rules all over the province.
Yeah. But I don't think it's in order to foment dissent.
Just getting together to have a good time is dissent.
I guess. But it's not marching in the streets for anti-mask stuff. It's not and those were all organized online. So if I can just keep those people from organizing,
it can't be done.
Yeah.
No, people are going to become way smarter in the post-Trump world.
Have you seen people are now discussing alt tech as a thing? They're like, shit, we're not using this shit anymore. We're using Signal. Come join my Signal group. Or people have I have a Gab account. I don't follow anyone. I don't ever use it, but I have a Gab account just because it's the guy who owns it is fucking badass. He's a Orthodox Christian. He gives zero fucks. He said yesterday, hey, if you're a reporter and you want to do an interview with me, the answer is no, unless your publication is a Christian Christian organization, like an avowed Christian organization. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, dude. I mean, good for you.
Well, I don't know. I kind of like using the existing systems to spread propaganda that those existing systems absolutely hate and makes them seethe. Like, just imagine these employees seeing all this fake news like flying around, or like hurtful ideas, or
Is that like when you put CNN headlines beside one another?
yeah, stuff like that. Like anything that undermines the cathedral
The dissonance,
on the approved tool of the cathedral.
because they put no value in it to begin with. They somehow attach value and also negative value at the same time. So when they see those headlines put side by side, they just go, "Yep, that's just how it is."
Yeah.
It doesn't fix anything.
Mm,
Memes are the best way to get that done. And unfortunately, I don't there's no wake up people fucking memes. And if they are, they're cringe as fuck. So they're not proper memes.
no, people just need to take action on their local levels in any ways they can. It's like, if you can't become like the town dog catcher, you're not going to become like member of parliament.
Yeah.
You like all these people asking for money for like these new federal parties or new provincial parties, and it's like they got nothing.
Tell me about the Wild Rose.
I don't know anything about it.
What are they doing? Do they still exist as a party?
The Wild Rose Independence Party exists as a party in Alberta. They basically just formed out of that merger, and it's a thing. It's like the only really party that's, I guess, to the right of the UCP. I don't think they have a leader. They just have an interim guy. I think they had a convention like a few weeks ago, some online convention or meeting or AGM or something. If it's online, in my opinion, it doesn't count, but I guess that's all they got. And I don't really know where it's at now. But I think some UCP people are going to bail.
Would you recommend people get involved with the Wild Rose Party?
Well, the new party is the Wild Rose Independence Party. So if it is a provincial separatist party, then yes.
To what end? So how would someone who's your average Albertan, he's got fucking bills to pay, or maybe they're unemployed and they got nothing better to do, in which case they probably should.
Because it's the only party that's explicitly for independence and anti-lockdown. And those are the only two issues that matter right now. They override basically every other issue at the moment.
What is a compelling reason for personal reasons? Like, they're like, man, it's a lot of people to me, and I gotta go to these fucking meetings, and they send me emails, and they're always trying to raise money. And like what?
Well, I don't know. Everyone's specialty is different, so I don't know where everyone can make a contribution. That's just maybe one avenue.
How do you take a average Albertan and put them and make them appreciate or understand or gently nudge them towards?
You don't get the average Albertan. You don't give a shit about convincing the average Albertan. You're going for the hardcore and deviations from there.
Without a leader, it's real hard.
No, they need a good leader. It's absolutely critical.
But it's just like I'd be among that 5 to 10%, because I am pretty outspoken about what I think is right. But I look at that and I'm just like, fuck, that's a fat horse to tie my fucking cart to. Like, it seems rough.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I don't have all the answers, but
Is there's going to be...
You can't fight something with nothing.
Okay, that's a really good argument, actually, I believe. It's a couple steps up from better than nothing. But yeah, you have an avenue to pursue to enforce your will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the current form of this newly arisen sort of Wild Rose Independence Party is like the way to go in the end, but it's there right now, and that's its explicit position on the matter regarding the whole relationship vis-a-vis Ottawa. Now, they're also the leader has also been expressing anti-lockdown positions, and that too is also critical. So those two things alone makes that party clearly superior to all the other options, at least as far as the political side of things right now.
I think the greatest argument would be if you swing to the right and you don't like Jason Kenney, this is your only fucking show.
You also need an upheaval in the cities. Like the big cities need to get basically their city councils purged and get some hardcore dudes in there.
We're on our way here in Calgary, I think. I think there's going to be a big changing of the guard.
I don't know. I guess we're going to find out.
Would you care to make a wager?
I'd have to figure it out a little more first.
Does Nenshi run for re-election?
It seems like probably I'm leaning towards no.
Really?
I think sometimes you want to go out on a high, and I don't think anyone's going to want to clean up the mess that's waiting for them.
It's a pretty big mess. He's going to say he's tired.
The Edmonton guy, he's bailing.
Oh, really?
Yep.
There's an old oil field services guy who's going to run for mayor. I forget his fucking name.
Well, there's a bunch of different people running for councillor positions and the mayor position. I think there's only like 2 or 3 candidates for mayor at the moment, maybe 4.
There's a big uproar because one of the council members fucking had a giant legal battle against some Kensington family for defamation. Came to like $200,000 in fucking legal fees.
Yeah, and she gets to build a city, just like Nenshi's going to build a city for his new slander lawsuit.
Didn't he fundraise for that?
No, this is a new one.
A new one. What did he say now?
So apparently there's 2 people on council who like blew the whistle against him because he said something like he called it's basically the same thing, like he implied somebody was a mobster or something.
Oh no.
But it was outed by like 2 city councilors, from what I understand, are the whistleblowers, so they can't be identified. So it's weird, but I don't know, apparently that's what's going on.
It's fascinating. The city can't afford shit.
They got no money.
Let alone a legal scandal.
No, usually it's like 99% of property taxes are paid, and now it's currently at like 91%.
Yeah. It's the ARB is in some shit.
They have no money.
They recently had to comply with a provincial mandate, so the ARB's like all fucked up. Oh. And what's our vacancy rate downtown?
Like 30%.
It's 30
Very high.
Off the top. Billions of dollars. Just gone.
Oh yeah.
See you later. Fuck.
No, there's no room to be losing money. They've been spending all the money at all times.
Dark times.
But they say they're not gonna have to like raise the taxes, but they're just targeting some people with nasty assessments. Like
there is some, yeah, absolutely. My assessments on my properties have been reasonable.
Yeah, in some communities it kind of stays stable, but they've targeted specific groups, like upper class neighborhoods with like flood exposure have been just nailed with assessments.
Perfect. See you later, Kensington.
Businesses have just been hammered.
Oh yeah. It was last year. There was a couple. Remember that gas station put their property tax value right on their fucking sign?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Fucking awesome.
What a disgrace. They just take so much money and you get crap.
Dude, it's terrifying. That like I think I'd fucking kill myself if somebody.
And you know what? Here's something interesting. My neighborhood has a special levy. It's like an extra $23 a year or something that goes on the property tax.
Yeah.
And it's for like landscaping or whatever. It's for some community need. But why can't all of it be like that?
No.
I would have way more influence over money being taxed and spent in my neighborhood than I do with freaking city council.
We got to subsidize these outlying areas.
Ugh.
The Brown County special.
Ugh.
Fuck that guy.
Brown County was the worst.
Absolute worst.
Almost as bad as Nenshi. Every government just gets worse.
We're all just waiting for Godot, man. Like, it's just not.
You got to be in for the long haul and be committed on like a moral level. Otherwise, it's too disheartening and you're not going to have any easy short-term victories. So that's what everyone wants. They want the revolution today. They want like a huge change tomorrow.
I want to go and give a Pepsi to a bunch of jackbooted thugs while I protest during my revolution.
That was the greatest commercial I've ever seen.
Art.
This was just so hilarious.
It's like putting
tacky.
It's like putting a daisy in the fucking National Guard's fucking rifle.
I just it's just funny the way corporations try to co-opt like these social movements. Like remember all the like mailing list stuff that came out every time something bad happened? It was like post George Floyd BLM stuff, and like corporations were all just like racing to get out these really hollow proclamations about how dedicated they were to
Black lives,
whatever social justice and racial justice.
You don't want to see it when you sign into Call of Duty.
It's just, it seems really.
Do you know what's interesting? The correlation between, because if you go on Google Analytics and look at searches, after Occupy Wall Street, and you look at the mentions of LGBT or anything like that in New York Times articles.
Yeah, it went up like crazy.
Yeah. As soon as Occupy Wall Street like disappears, all these banks all have Pride Parade floats. They all have Pride logos. Like, what's the harm? Well, none, I guess. But it's thrown. I believe it's in order to throw you off the scent that they're fucking bilking the government of your money with fucking handouts, and they're all cronies, and they're trying to keep the ship afloat.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, you know,
I think that's true.
If I've not asked any listener, because I'm assuming there's maybe 10, to post any CBC content that is worthwhile because we went on a hunt to try and find Canadian political content on YouTube.
Very little.
Yeah, so maybe it's like I even tried like a fresh browser. I even tried on a fresh device to make sure there was no fuck up. And the only Canadian content aside like is actually okay. There's the post millennial, and there's JJ. Right?
Yeah, and there's almost nothing else. There's I think there's a guy JJ criticized in a video, but I forget what it is.
It was a French guy and they're buddies.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah. No, JJ's fucking awesome.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, I like him.
Kind of like an ordinary
He's just a bro.
fellow.
He's just a guy. Just a lad. Just a fella. And Yeah, there's nothing else. So the only thing we can actually properly react to is, because there's no 10 subscriber channels to also go and have a fair fight with. We just got to go after the CBC.
Yeah, that'll work though.
So anybody who has really trash CBC, I would love for
I don't watch it, so I'm not really aware of what
I want
bad
some
clips are.
CBC editorials. I want those turned into videos so I can fucking shit.
Oh yeah,
on
we
those.
could just go through an editorial paragraph by paragraph and rip it to trash.
Oh my god, I have the one. Did I tell you about it?
There's a bunch of different ones that I can think
Oh
of.
no, there's a fucking perfect one. Where is this shit? This fucking cunt.
I think I know the one.
Oh, come on. Oh yeah, this fucking bitch. Jen Gerson.
I know exactly the one.
In the CBC, written January 21st. This was shortly after Biden canceled the Keystone XL pipeline by Fiat. Calgary, opinion piece. Hey, Alberta, how's it going so far?
Yeah, it's horrible.
If you go back and look at her articles, they're all just like in praise of Notley. Like she loves Notley.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably the proper method and venue for you to criticize the kind of political direction. And I'm no friend of Kenny's. However, this is written in a fucking tone.
It's most of it is victim blaming. Yeah. I read it. There was a few parts where I was 100% kind of on board, even though for different reasons. Basically, I agreed with something she said, but coming at it from a different angle. But it's like, well, what were you wearing that night?
Yeah. To be fair, it's like the Ron Paul meme. This is the future you chose. And she's just fucking being like, you got what you fucking wanted. You get what you deserve.
But it's not it's not really self-inflicted. That's the thing. Like, for all the stupid things we've done to ourselves with our own stupid corrupt governments, like the PCs, then voting for Notley, who caused a lot of damage on top of that. And now we got Kenney just doubling up on Notley. All that's on us. Like, we have a huge mess we have to clean up for ourselves. But on top of that, we have a completely unjustified level of interference with our own affairs when supposedly Confederation is supposed to work a certain way, but it's clearly a one-sided relationship that involves like a real systematic expropriation of the province's wealth and control over its own affairs.
Well, it's your own fault.
And well, no, that's the thing. That's
the
not
crux.
Alberta's fault.
Yeah,
Ottawa's interference is not on us.
Yeah. Well, she's just saying like, look, Kenney decided to fucking spend all your money on magic beans and someone fucking took it away.
Yeah, and that's irrelevant. That's like the so-called whataboutism. Like, yeah, we know Kenney's an idiot. Yeah, we know the Alberta government is a joke. But at the same time, that doesn't justify or excuse the way Ottawa abuses Alberta. And frankly, that's what it is.
Her argument is that things would be much better if Notley was in charge and we hadn't elected Jason Kenney. Of course
she thinks that.
Yeah. It would clearly stop Ottawa from expropriating. And clearly. Because they're friends.
She throws in her article that, I agree that Alberta's been treated badly.
Yeah. I mean, rape is a serious issue.
So some numbers I was looking at the other day.
What were you wearing?
Numbers I was looking at the other day from 2009 to 2017, I believe, is the range. I might not have the exact years, but it's roughly this. The average Albertan taxpayer over that time forked over 70,000 net contributions. So that's like hundreds of thousands of dollars for a family.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money. And then you think, well, Atlantic Canada gets the equivalent of like
50, I thought.
Just a massive amount of its whole GDP basically comes from these transfers. And it basically works out to every person in Newfoundland basically gets a house.
Yeah.
And they want Alberta to pay up.
They gotta.
And we already have. But everyone just wants more.
What's in your pockets? Come here. What do you got on you?
Fork it over.
Come here. Hey, nerd. Give me your shit. Give me your shit, you fucking nerd.
Anyway, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, if anybody, there's plenty of CBC. The thing is, CBC doesn't have the op-ed all that much. They used to have Rex Murphy. You know, trot his sweet newfie.
I think they still have that Don Pittis guy.
Yeah. Who's that guy?
He's a buffoon. I think he's supposed to be their straight talking common sense guy.
He's their he's their Don Cherry.
No.
He's their everyman.
He's like the voice of.
Is he is he the Dr. Phil of CBC op-eds? Straight Talk Express? Is he a Maverick?
No, he's like the common sense guy at the CBC lunchroom.
Oh, okay.
Like, so his idea of common sense is pretty narrow within a certain worldview.
Okay.
And
we'll just tax him more. That's his common sense answer to shit?
It's pretty bad.
Just provide
it's been a long
incentives.
time. I don't know if he's still around, but you could always look forward to how bad his next column
Okay,
will be.
we'll make a small effort to find a CBC article to react to. Otherwise, we'll have to pay. We'll just go on Fiverr and get somebody to read that chick's fucking article.
We'll get it. No, there's a whole bunch of them. They're easy to find.
Yeah, it's so much easier with video because then we can pause it and fucking shit on it.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and fucking read it because I would. I fear that my ability to deliver it in the manner in which other people may perceive it would be too drastically different. And do it in a cunty voice or Karen voice.